Welcome to The Explainer. Let's just dive right in today. And honestly, let's call it the elephant in the room right off the bat. There's this massive and completely false assumption out there that getting older, getting a few wrinkles, going a bit gray, maybe having a few extra miles on the odometer, somehow puts you at a distinct disadvantage in dating. Right? So many older guys literally walk into a room assuming they're already losing the race. They've kind of convinced themselves they're too old or that they're competing with younger guys who have already won the game. Well, today, we're going to completely reframe that whole mindset based on some truly fascinating psychology.
So think about this for a second. Why do some older men seem to attract people completely effortlessly, while others, guys who might even be incredibly successful, just remain completely invisible? Now, people usually jump to the exact wrong conclusion here. They think, oh, it's got to be about looks, or it's all about money, and they definitely assume younger women are just this monolith all searching for the exact same thing. But actually, the difference comes down to an internal shift that is way, way deeper than your wallet or your wardrobe.
Take a look at this quote. Confidence doesn't begin the moment you approach a woman. It begins long before she notices you. That right there, that's the core thesis of our explainer today. You see, attraction is absolutely not a switch that you just flip on the moment you walk across the room to say hello. The internalized belief that you're at a disadvantage, it quietly changes everything. It changes how you stand, how you speak, and the kinds of risks you're willing to take. Real, genuine magnetism, it starts with how comfortable you are in your own skin long before a single word is even spoken.
And this brings us to a really crucial contrast. We've got the appearance myth on one side and the emotional atmosphere on the other. Now, the myth basically tricks men into thinking they've got to constantly prove they still have it, right? They're frantically comparing themselves to guys who are maybe 20 years younger. But the reality is that true attraction is actually sparked by the emotional atmosphere you create. When you can just let a conversation unfold with absolute ease, without trying to force some specific outcome or intensely sell a version of yourself, that is when genuine magnetism really begins.
So the anchor to creating this kind of atmosphere is what we call emotional steadiness. Basically, it's your ability to remain completely grounded and present without rushing interactions or constantly demanding immediate validation. A lot of the time, we just assume that high energy and constant excitement are what build attraction. But actually, emotional stability creates something way stronger. It creates trust. And trust is the absolute foundation that allows attraction to actually grow over time instead of just, burning out immediately. People naturally gravitate toward those who make them feel relaxed, not pressured.
Now, a super common trap here is mistaking intensity for sincerity. A lot of older guys think that firing off rapid, overwhelming interest proves that they're genuine. But honestly, moving too quickly just makes the whole interaction feel incredibly heavy before any real, solid connection has even had a chance to form. Choosing patience over urgency, basically allowing curiosity to develop naturally, demonstrates profound confidence. It shows you aren't desperate, right? You aren't terrified of a little silence. And you trust that if there really is genuine chemistry there, it's not going to just vanish because you decided to take a breath.
In practice, this over-eager approach is pretty easy to spot. It's stuff like, interrupting a story just to make your point, or maybe forcing a laugh a little too hard at a joke that frankly wasn't even that funny. Or it's constantly seeking reassurance about where things are going. Behaving anxiously like this literally kills attraction on the spot. And here's why. It instantly places the burden of your emotions onto the other person. Suddenly, they feel responsible for managing your anxiety. And let me tell you, nothing drains romance faster than feeling pressured like that.
Okay, it is also a massive, massive mistake to think you need to compete with younger guys on their own terms. Dressing like them, copying their slang, trying to adopt all the latest trends. Please don't do this. When you try to imitate youth, you honestly just blend in and become entirely forgettable. Younger women already know exactly how younger men behave. They're surrounded by them literally every single day. Confidence definitely doesn't come from blending in. It comes from standing out by embracing your own unique rhythm, your natural presence, and your actual life experience.
Which naturally leads us straight to authenticity. And authenticity really shows up in the micro moments. It's your natural laugh. It's the calm, unhurried pace of your stories. It's how you react when a date doesn't go exactly as planned. Younger women aren't out there looking for absolute perfection. They are drawn to a man who fully accepts himself without arrogance. They can sense that authenticity instantly, and I promise you, they prefer someone who feels emotionally settled over someone who is frantically trying to prove he's still 25.
Let's talk about the power of having a purpose beyond the relationship. This essentially means you're building a life so meaningful that a partnership is just a great addition to it, not the absolute center of your universe. So many guys unknowingly reverse this. The second they get interested in someone, suddenly their hobbies fade away, their friends disappear, and they make this one person completely responsible for all their happiness. Don't do that. Maintaining a real passion for your career, a hobby, volunteering, or just personal growth, it gives you a direction that makes you inherently magnetic.
Ultimately, emotional independence is just incredibly reassuring to be around. When your entire identity doesn't rise and fall based on whether you got a text message in the last hour, you bring this remarkably light, enjoyable energy to the table. You aren't just sitting around waiting for validation. You actually know how to create fulfillment on your own. And the beautiful irony of all this, the less you depend on a relationship to give your life meaning, the more enjoyable you are to actually be around.
This mindset completely changes how you communicate, too. You have to stop performing in conversations just to seem perfect. A lot of men treat interactions like they're on stage, right? They're constantly rehearsing clever little responses in their heads while the other person is still talking. But when you do that, genuine connection really suffers. People are going to remember how you made them feel way longer than they'll ever remember your exact words. The quiet power of simply being fully present and making someone feel truly heard, that is exponentially more attractive than any rehearsed line you could come up with.
We like to call this the art of active presence. Look, we live in a deeply distracted world. So simply keeping your phone in your pocket, not waiting impatiently for your turn to speak, asking genuinely thoughtful questions, and just being totally comfortable with silence, that offers a really rare, respectful experience. It shows you aren't desperately trying to fill every conversational void just to prove your worth. That calm, attentive presence, it speaks absolute volumes.
And how do you handle uncertainty? Say she takes a bit longer to reply to a text, or she has to cancel a date. The emotional reaction is panicked overthinking. It's staring at those 3 little typing bubbles as they disappear on your screen, letting anxiety completely take the wheel and demanding reassurance. But the thoughtful response, that is rooted in maturity. Giving situations a little room to breathe without instantly jumping to the worst conclusions proves you aren't controlled by uncertainty. And let me tell you, that kind of emotional steadiness is incredibly attractive.
Which leads us to this really crucial realization. Age isn't what attracts people, it's what you've done with the years. We absolutely have to stop viewing life experience as some sort of perceived weakness. It is a massive, unparalleled strength. It's all about how you synthesized your time on this earth.
Life has taught you lessons that no book ever could, but there's a really stark difference between carrying heavy baggage and having quiet confidence. The guy with heavy baggage, he lets his past make him bitter. He's constantly complaining about his old relationships and bringing all this unresolved frustration into every new connection. But the man with quiet confidence carries wisdom. He's actually learned from his failures, he speaks respectfully about his past, and he maintains a really mature, calm perspective. Bitterness pushes people away every single time, but wisdom draws them right in.
And you know what a true sign of that quiet confidence is? Humility. Specifically, the willingness to just keep learning. True confidence doesn't mean acting like you've seen it all and know absolutely everything. Remaining open to new ideas, asking questions, and understanding that your personal growth doesn't just suddenly stop because you hit a certain age. That keeps a seasoned man incredibly approachable and just super refreshing to be around.
So to quickly summarize this mindset, value your own time because that teaches others to value it too. Listen to actually understand, not just to impress. Protect your emotional peace by choosing to respond with patience instead of panic. And finally, embrace your years without apology. These shifts naturally draw people in, completely avoiding making attraction this desperate game or some frantic goal you're constantly chasing. To wrap up our explainer today, I really want to leave you with a question to ask yourself. Am I becoming a man I genuinely respect? Because ultimately, attraction isn't about figuring out the perfect trick to make someone else like you. It's really about becoming the strongest, most grounded version of the man you already are. Genuine self-respect is the absolute true source of all attraction. Think about it. Thanks for joining me today, and we'll see you next time.